And good morning on this Tuesday, September 18th, 2018. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome to the Potter Expositor. You know, it's interesting, and I always talk about this, don't I? I check my settings and everything, and the internet connection looks good. And I'll be doggone. Just as I'm ready to go live, I start losing the signal strength. I'm not saying it's on purpose. I'm not saying somebody's doing something with it. It's just that it's aggravating. So if you lose some of the video, I apologize, because I do have a clip today that I want to show you. I've called this video, "Do We Want to Know the Truth? Yom Kippur Starts Tonight." Am I Jewish? No. But, I don't necessarily mean to open up with this as a scriptural or religious or spiritual thing. It's just that that's a fact. And a lot of things happen around this time of year. We just went through Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year, which is, I should say, the Israelite New Year. And 10 days before, that starts 10 days before Yom Kippur. And then Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement, which starts tonight at sundown. And there's some things that you do on Yom Kippur, but I'm not going to talk about those because that's up to everybody's own personal desires and beliefs, etc. But the point really isn't that it's a Jewish holiday. The point is that this is a marker. This is the signs in the heavens and in the earth. Those things that you watch, those times of the year that things can happen, and you want to be aware of them. Look, I'm going to get into this probably a little bit later, but the solar observatory, everybody's talking about. There's a lot of. I even had a friend call me and say, "Hey, look at these pictures, of that this lady had," and I won't tell you about what I'll just say that they were digital problems, but and camera internal reflections. But regardless of all of that, the fact of the matter is that this thing occurred right during Rosh Hashanah, just prior to Yom Kippur. I don't know. I've heard that other solar observatories have been closed. I don't know that that's true. Maybe you folks do. I didn't go down that path. But I do think that it's odd. Of course, everybody was thinking, aliens and all this stuff. Or that they saw something in front of the sun, which, by the way, when you see there's some pictures of an object traversing the sun one way and then the other, well, that's just the location of the SRO, the camera that watches the sun. Basically what's happening is, and it's two different sizes, and the reason is because it's looking just past the Earth, and the moon is passing in front of it going one way, and then as it comes around to go the other way, you see it change direction. It's not Nibiru, Just things like that. People get going on that. But at any rate, Yom Kippur is important for a lot of reasons. Christians will say, well, Jesus did away with the old law. No, he said that not one jot nor tittle shall pass away until all shall be fulfilled. And I don't think that's happened yet, all being fulfilled. But at any rate, these are times and seasons that we should take note of. Even if you're not involved in the religious or spiritual aspects of this holy day, you should at least be aware of it. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Big things happen around Yom Kippur. A lot of prophecies are concerned with what happens around Yom Kippur. Passover is the salvation of the individual, basically. Of Israel, let's put it that way. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement. It's when the nations are set right. There are things like that. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. The high priest of the temple, back when the temple was up, would actually go into the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur and pray for forgiveness, not just for Israel, but for the 70 nations that existed at that time. So they weren't selfish in that. They felt like they had the duty to do what God commanded them, but they really didn't impose that on anybody else. As a matter of fact, they weren't converts at all. That wasn't what they were about. It became that way as a political thing later, but it wasn't really part of the spiritual system to begin with, which is one reason why I handle things the way I do. But I wanted to bring up this solar observatory because something doesn't make sense here. they closed it down. They said it was a security problem. They brought the FBI in, and whenever you get the FBI, your radar should go up because it's usually nefarious almost all the time. And if it hadn't been for the FBI coming and not telling the sheriff about what's going on, or at least telling the sheriff, the local law enforcement, not to talk about it, I wouldn't be so suspicious. But the fact of the FBI coming in and taking control of that tells me that there's something nefarious afoot. Now, the explanation now is that there was a criminal somewhere in the area that was threatening the people. Really? Well, let me tell you how that should work, ladies and gentlemen. If, in fact, there was a criminal episode happening around or near the solar observatory, why would you have to evacuate the town? You could bring people in to secure the town, number one. Or number two, why doesn't the sheriff know about this suspect? Why aren't they given the description and the information so they can help look for it? And they're not. As usual, and that's why, I asked this question on this video, do we want to know the truth? Because they're still lying to us and they're not going to stop. Even Congress has said they have a right to lie to us, to propagandize us, and to make us pay for it. Not just monetarily, but with our lives sometimes. We have nothing but evil in this government anymore. As hard as Trump is trying to clean things up, you can see. And a lot of people say, well, no, he's still part of the problem. And I agree to a certain extent, but as I've said in some other videos, what else do we have to work with? I have to take him on his word that he wants to do the things he says he wants to do. I mean, heck, he just declassified all these FISA records and the text, the FBI text, and some of these other documents. Don't you think for a moment that they're not wanting to kill him right now? They absolutely 100% do. There was a coup against him and against the American people who chose him as their president. I don't care if you say, well, there was a voting problem or whatever. The bottom line is, at this point, he's there. So, at any rate, do I believe everything he says? Well, this declassification is great. I can't wait till all the information comes out showing who the real criminals are. A lot of the leftist Marxists are saying, yeah, when it comes out, Trump doesn't know everything that's in there, so when this comes out, he's going to feel bad that he let this stuff out because it's going to be about him that sends him to prison. No. You people are trusting what TV tells you about the FBI, all the little dramas and the series and all those things that tell you how good it is. It is not. And most of the federal government is not either. It's been taken over. It's always had a problem. I wouldn't say it was. I mean, I see what they were doing, back early in the 1800s, even the 1700s. I mean, and that's the whole point of the Constitution is to chain down these criminals that try to get in control. But we want to worship government. Oh, yeah. So do we want to know the truth? I don't know if we do or not. By the way, you'll notice I'm in my more comfortable setting this morning. I figured that it was time to do this, especially with all the really intense things that are happening right now. So I hope this is okay. The lighting might be a little weird, and I moved the mic over. I'm hoping that it's working okay. I probably ought to check and make sure that the chat is on too. I don't mind the chat being on. Yeah, it looks like the sound and everything is doing fine, so that's good. Okay. And we'll get to some other things here right away, but I did want to talk about the declass. This is very important, and this is Trump taking the gloves off in reality. This is him getting ruthless and aggressive, as I have said. He's being attacked by people saying this is going to ruin our intelligence system, it's going to reveal our sources and methods, this is unprecedented. Exactly why he should do it. Exactly why he should do it, and I'm behind it 100%. So that's the first thing that's going on. We've got that happening, and we should all be very happy that that's occurring. However, what in the world is going on in Syria? Is our attention again being directed away from this so that, because we know that they want to go after Syria. If they can't get a false flag chemical attack, they're going to do something else. And so now, of course, Apparently, the Syrians, for whatever reason, accidentally shot down a Russian transport. There's some disagreement over that at this point. But again, my take is it doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that they're escalating tensions there on purpose. And we're not talking about it too much here. Trump said he was going to get out of Syria. Why are we still fighting for ISIS and Al-Qaeda, which we're doing? We talked about the situation with Secretary of State Pompeo saying that Yemen is, Saudi Arabia is sovereign over Yemen, but no discussion about Assad being sovereign over Idlib. The dual standards, the hypocrisy are still there. And we could say, well, it has to do with national interests. Well, I'll just say it in our national security, but really our national interests, our corporate interests. The bottom line is we're screwed up. Our country is just like I said, we're Looney Tune. We are Looney Tune. Before I go any further, I would like to talk about the video I did the other day. I was out. I went to Salt Lake City to a suburb called Holiday Cottonwood. They were having an ALS fundraising event there, a car show. And I'd like you to go see it. I guess it is a little long, 30 minutes. The cars are interesting. I notice it doesn't have a lot of views, and that's okay. But the reason why I'm bringing it up here is because don't let the title fool you. It's really quite interesting. It's a rowboat that's about 20 to 25 feet long. It's only about 5 feet wide, 6 feet possibly at the widest. And it's going to carry 5 men across the Atlantic Ocean 3,000 miles. Now, it's in a standard run. I think it's called the Talister Whiskey race, something like that. You'll see it in the video. So it happens every year, but this year there is the one that's coming from Salt Lake. It's being promoted by the University of Utah, by a local pub, by the way, About Time, and some others. This year it's about ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease, and Alan Alderman is and I feature him in the video. Alan Alderman is a gentleman who has had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, since 2001. That's when he was diagnosed with it. Most people diagnosed with it only live 2 to 5 years, and he's the exception. He's been going on now for 17? But he's going to be on that boat helping to row. And the whole idea is to generate funds for this event, which will go to ALS research. So even if you don't want to watch the whole thing, at least go look at parts of it. Look at the boat, if nothing else. I can't imagine being out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean on that thing. There are sharks out there as big as that boat. But it's an interesting video. It gets into some of the details, and you get to see some nice cars and listen to some music. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick because it's interesting. Most people, I guess the political thing is tantalizing to most people. And if you notice, I'm trying to get into some other content as well. As usual, I have camera and sound problems because, the situation there, I don't have all the technical stuff that would be nice to have. And, of course, I make camera errors every once in a while, shaking and things like that, bad focus. But the information's there, so if you could go take a look at it and appreciate what Alan Alderman is actually doing here and the people that are helping him to accomplish this. The band I met, there were 2 of them there, but the one I really liked, and I feature them the most in there. So you can listen to them. They're pretty good. They're amazing. They came from Tennessee to do that event, so that's pretty good. Okay, well, we've already touched on Syria too, so I won't go back to that. Let's talk about the Emmys for a minute. If we want a barometer of how sick our society is, go watch the Emmys from last night. It's the real barometer of our society, particularly the leftist Marxists and where they're headed. They actually had a segment where they honored John McCain, of all people. The propaganda propping him up as some kind of a war hero is really disgusting, and some type of a great American. But that's the problem now. The lies and the deception are so huge they have to have their heroes, okay? The evil side has to have their heroes, and John McCain at this point is it. But it was pretty disgusting to watch. I won't go into all the details. I didn't even watch the whole thing. But it goes along with what I've been saying for a long time. The invasion of our minds and our conscience, our consciousness, and the minds and lives of our children have been poisoned by this entire thing. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no, and I've said this before in other videos, there is no hope of reconciling the differences here. This is an unbridgeable gulf that will never, ever be put back together, will never be healed. So you got to get ready. You really, really got to get ready. I'd like to get into some more detail on that, but I'll just leave it at that. It grieves me to the soul, to the core of my being. They think that they're exercising their rights, but they don't mind trampling on other people's rights in the process of that, and they'll accuse us of that. And we did some. The United States as a nation did some crazy things around the world. We have, the United Fruit Company in Nicaragua, for instance, under Eisenhower. The Native American wars, much of that was just pathetic. We weren't there, so we don't know all the details, but regardless, it was a problem. People will say slavery. Well, yeah, but we also are basically the Western governments, Britain and the United States, are really the ones who stopped slavery, who actually stepped up to the plate and said enough of this. But they don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about the things that are truly divisive and dangerous. And I told you, and I've mentioned it before, these things were discussed in the 1840s and 50s and 60s and 70s, and talked about a grand civil war caused by race, religion, and even between the sexes, and we're going to let them do this to us. As a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about that right now for just a minute. Laura Loomer said something that was very good. Some people like her, some people don't. I don't care. Like I say, I get information from a lot of different places. But she said something that was very good. Let me see if I can find it here. I hope I can. Because she's very right, and it's really sad where we are right now. Yeah. Wow, there's so much information I'd love to cover today. But let me get this thing on Laura Loomer, because we're kind of talking about this divide. Why are we letting them do this to us? The human condition is male and female. Actually, the spiritual condition is too, but most people don't want to hear that. The very thing that makes us what we are, and I don't mean sinners, I mean what we are, our kind, how we were made, is the relationship between the man and the woman. Anyway, Laura Loomer said this. First of all, she's talking about this person made a statement about winning, and that winning's not as important as following your Christian principles. And there's some truth to that, but she said something I thought was pretty poignant. Quote, "Do you really think Christianity will save you from the left? It didn't in the Soviet Union. No. Russian Revolution, the Bolshevik Revolution on into the Soviet Union. No, it didn't. It's not helping many of them in China. The first thing communists do is eradicate religion in an effort to demoralize the masses." Well, that's true, but what they really want to do is control religion. They want it to be a religion that they approve, like the Romans did by altering Christianity and Judaism, actually the Israelite religion, into Judaism in the 1st and 2nd centuries, and those types of things. They wanted a state-approved religion. That's where they're going. And of course, we can see how AI is developing into that now. But anyway, let me go on here. Do you think Christian morality has helped Christians in the Middle East? It didn't. Most have been murdered. I wouldn't say most, but certainly many. Now, getting on this love thing, this thing about the sexes, she said something else that's very good. Quote, "The left has ruined love." Are we going to let them do that to us? I guess a lot of people are falling for it, this whole me movement and what we're seeing with Judge Kavanaugh. I don't particularly like Judge Kavanaugh for reasons I don't want to get into. But what's transpiring around that is disgusting. Quote, let me go back to this. The left has ruined love. 20 years ago, people in their 20s had higher marriage rates. The marriage rate has declined along with the rate of long-term relationships. Liberals want to destroy natural chemistry between men and women. It's sad. And she's right. That's all part of the plan, ladies and gentlemen. The leftist Marxist plan. They do it everywhere they go. Everywhere they go. And I equate the leftist Marxist plan with the Luciferian plan, and specifically, well, I'll just leave it at that. Okay. I don't want to get into that. We already know about the declassification. I was going to bring up Tom Fitton and what we're finding out from there, but I think everybody's following that pretty well. I will bring up what Matt Bracken said, and I tweeted this out yesterday because I knew they were going to do it. They're going to slow walk this declass if they can. Anything to slow it down. And they of course, this whole thing with Kavanaugh is another sideshow because they're trying to take any heat off of them they can. This is what Matt Bracken said. If the DOJ attempts to, Matt Bracken is a former Navy SEAL officer. I think he made it to lieutenant commander. I'm not sure about lieutenant or lieutenant commander. I might be promoting him there, but I think that's where he made it. So he's been involved in a lot of this for a long time. Let me just quote this, what he says. If the DOJ attempts to slow walk the release of the declassified documents, Trump should march in with the U.S. Marshals. Haven't I been saying that? And have them arrest any deep state mutineer, amen, who doesn't turn them over on the spot. If Sessions and Rosenstein don't join with him, fire them on the spot. I'd say arrest them for obstruction, for accessory. Yeah, this is great. So you see, Matt Bracken and I have been talking about that for a long time. I still think that part of this declassification, all that's going on, I wouldn't object, and I don't think most Americans would. Oh, there are members of Congress that want to protect the institutions at your peril. Let them continue to rape over the American people and the Constitution under the guise of supporting the Constitution. It's interesting how when it benefits their agenda, their argument, that they'll cite the Constitution like Maxine Waters did and continues to do. It makes me sick. I don't think she's ever read the document. I don't think she ever knew what it meant. But at any rate, I've been calling for it a long time. Get the U.S. Marshals, DHS, part of them, the Marines in support, in a logistical support mode, and go and take these rodents out from our system. I've been calling for that for a long time, and I'm glad to see Matt Bracken say the same thing. So that's where we are with that. I wanted to bring that up because I thought it was important. This unbridgeable gulf, this is a war, ladies and gentlemen, between good and evil. There is a divide that's going on. I don't want to see violence. I don't. But it's going to go there. It's going to eventually arrive at that point. I mean, it really has already. We've been shielded from it a little bit. The newspapers and the news media not quite covering it. The alt media trying to, but not quite. I mean, they're not quite everywhere like we should be. There are nasty things going on. It's going to get worse. The closer it comes to, if Trump is successful in this, first of all, winning the midterms is really important, of course. But that doesn't mean that they're going to stop either. It just means that he'll have a little more leverage. If we don't succeed in keeping the seats in the House, etc., and losing a lot, and the Dems, I'm going to call them leftist Marxists because there are good Democrats. I'm not saying that there aren't, but unfortunately at this point, to support the Democratic Party, to support the Republican Party is the same thing because this left-right paradigm is false. But if you look at the fruits of the people, not their party, that's what's important. So there are some good Democrats. I saw one the other day. I can't remember who he is. I'm sorry. But basically he said that what they're doing with the Kavanaugh thing is wrong. It's setting a bad precedent, and it's wrong. So there are people out there who make some sense. But at any rate, I wanted to bring that up. And, of course, great James O'Keefe of Project Veritas has announced that he has an expose of the deep state, a who's who of the deep state and what they say themselves in their own language on video coming out this week. Probably starting today, I would think. So keep your eyes open for that. That's going to be important. Now, most people are going to, ignore it because they've been taught to. But spread the word as you can, okay? All right. Let's see here. I do want to bring up the MeToo and Kavanaugh situation, the MeToo movement and Kavanaugh thing too, because as Laura Loomer said, this whole thing is to divide men and women, and they've been after it for a long time. I could give you the history. Go look it up yourself. Gloria Steinem and the CIA and all that. And there's more to it. The reconciliation of the opposites is important, and that doesn't mean that we mate with every member of the opposite sex we meet, but it does mean that we find the ones that are compatible, the one or ones in some situations that are compatible. I've gotten into discussions about the soulmate hypothesis for a long time. That's why I say you have some others available to you, but there's always that one that's the very best. I think I've experienced that, and the point is that these people want to stop that. They want to destroy that, which is essentially going to destroy mankind. In the end, it's contributing to it. But this thing with Kavanaugh, what? In high school, first of all, there's no corroborative evidence, and even Ford's Blasey, whatever, I'm not sure what name she actually goes by. I guess it's Blasey, but whatever it is, her attorney says that she doesn't have to prove her allegations. What? Since when did we? They want us to always believe the women, and I know there are pros and cons on this and all of that, but we can't lose sight of the protections of the Constitution. Innocent until proven guilty. Due process, and all of that. Probable cause, all these things. There are a lot of problems with this argument of hers, as most people should know. I can't believe somebody just comes out and says, well, I believe her, period. Okay, well, you have a right to do that, but he can't be convicted on that. He can't be held accountable for your belief in her. So this is indicative of where this thing's going, and I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. They needed to shut this thing down right away. Mitch McConnell said, well, the Democrats have known about this, Feinstein, since, July at least? And they didn't do anything about it. And then his reasoning was, well, we're not going to follow in those same tracks. We are going to do something about it. We're going to investigate it. In other words, they're trying to show that they're going to look at this. But McConnell's not fooling me either. It's also a delaying tactic, and I know I know about these rhinos and all of that business. So I don't trust the motives. I think the way to have handled this personally, my personal opinion, is to put them both in a room. I guess they're going to do that anyway. But today, don't postpone it. Do it today. Get to the bottom of this thing if they're going to do that, but don't change the vote date. It should have stayed on Thursday. But who are we, right? Who are we? Anyway. I've been and by the way, I might as well bring this up too. I opened up my Twitter to other DMs, and I just want people to know, and I, in other words, not to just people I follow. And I want you to know I did that primarily for informational purposes. But I got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I have not had a good experience with actually having real contact with people from the internet, be it dating sites. I only did that once or twice, and that was a disaster. Everything on the internet is suspect. I'm sorry. Even me. I don't mind you being suspect of me. It's by the fruits. But don't expect me to contact you because you DM me. Like I say, I've had some really bad experiences when I have put my guard down and gone to meet somebody who's who I've had any kind of communication with on the internet, Twitter, YouTube, whatever. I can't say that I've been happy with the results. That's just a fact. So don't expect me to respond to you even on the DMs, even though I've opened up the DMs. I try to be gregarious. I try to be sociable. I try to be trusting. But like Kavanaugh has found out, people turn on you when they think it's, some benefit for them, however that comes about. And again, I don't particularly like Kavanaugh. I would much have preferred one of the other nominees back when it happened, one of the candidates, let's put it that way. Kavanaugh is a nominee, but one of the other candidates, because of what I know about Kavanaugh. This SES system is bad. And really, this whole thing with Kavanaugh, they were all behind him until he was nominated to be in the Supreme Court. He's SES. He's one of them. What's going on here? Is this just theater again? I don't know. I'm hoping that Trump is trying to do the right thing. I've heard pros and cons about how he feels about Kavanaugh and his little tactics here. I don't know. I don't read Trump's mind, but I would have preferred one of the other candidates myself. But regardless, this shows you the absurdity of this MeToo movement and the feminazis, as Limbaugh used to call them, as a whole. They're destroying their own kind, and they seem to be happy about it. It's tragic. I already talked about the solar observatory. Let's get to the last thing I want to talk about today. We've been going for 30 minutes. Well, first, let me get a sip of this. In the description box below, you'll find some links. One is to a YouTube site called Reality Analyst. Now, there are a lot of these. This is just the one I'm using because Unirock is going to address this type of thing, and I think he's going to use this particular Reality Analyst as his launching point. So in the description box below is a link to the video, a portion of which I'm going to show you right here. I just want you to see it, and I'm going to explain to you what I want you to look for. And go and actually watch the entire video because the link is in the box. I'm just going to show you some excerpts. I just cut and pasted. You're just going to see some things, not a whole lot of explanation. I'm going to tell you before I show it what you're going to see. But then kind of keep an eye open for Unirock on the link that I give you down there. I don't know when he'll have his 9/11 expose on this video compositing that I am convinced happened now. I am convinced it happened. There were no planes on that day. There were explosives. That's what we're looking at. And that explains a whole lot. Now, I wasn't aware, and this video will tell you that there were actually only 3 videos of the planes actually approaching the building. All of the others just show the explosions and the aftermath. So I'm going to leave that for your investigation. Go to this video, watch the whole thing. It's about 45 minutes long, I think. Unirock will be doing an entire study on the video aspects of this and how it happened, but I want you to watch this, and I'll say a couple things before I start. And I'm going to leave the original sound in it, so it's going to sound a little odd, I suppose, to you, but I just assume that you that you listen to the narrator there and what they're saying, and then watch for this. We're talking about steel on the outside of the building, steel and concrete on the inside. If you've ever seen a plane with a soft, because that's what they are, they're a soft aluminum nose, very, very soft, or even something softer than that, hit a solid object, it destroys it. At least it's going to deform the nose of the aircraft. At the very least, it's not going to be like even a bullet, a solid bullet, even an armor-piercing type. If it hits steel, it's going to be deformed to some extent. An airplane knows a lot. Knows, I mean like knows, right? Not knows like understand it. There were always questions in my mind about the planes flying into the building. That a plane doesn't just melt into a structure. It just doesn't do that. Nothing does. And that's how this was presented to us. Well, apparently, this conspiracy was, and of course we know that members of the MSM are part of the CIA. How long have I been saying that, right? When you look at this thing, what I want you to pay attention to is how, after the plane hits the building, and it's taken from a helicopter from a distance, And there's some others like this too. There are three of them, three angles that are composited. We're sure of that now. A plane is coming in, it hits the building, and its nose comes through the other side intact, and then the explosion occurs. How did that plane's nose penetrate steel on the outside, steel and concrete through, and then steel on the other side without being deformed? Impossible. The helicopter news person who's talking about this, he tries to say, well, we've never seen this type of thing happen before, so who knows what's possible? No, it's not possible, jerk. It's not possible. So, Reality Analyst shows you how the compositing works and why they slipped up on allowing the nose of the airplane to be shown on a couple of videos, why that happened. Because they were in a rush to do it live time. Okay? That's why. Let me play this for you. It's only a few minutes long. We'll come back and we'll talk about it, okay? Here we go.
So it appears to fly in front of the tower. To make it appear to fly behind the tower requires some masking. The key to this trick, and the key to solving... If the airplane goes too far, oops, it looks like it comes out the back side. To prevent this from happening, a mask can be drawn on the airplane layer. The south tower is in the center of the frame. The left half of the screen is masked off. The airplane goes in, and we never see it again. Real-time shot look like the CNN Hezarkhani shot would be impossible. But remember, the first time this was shown was many hours after. The nose of the airplane appears to pop out the backside of the tower, exactly the problem that could occur with live compositing. I offered Mr. Wright this multiple choice. 3 of them are the nose of the airplane before it goes into the building. 3 are the nose coming out of the building. Begins okay, but the camera drifts far enough so that the back edge of the tower is now outside the mask area. Simonson must have realized his mistake and quickly faded the picture down to black. When picture fades back up, here's Gamma Press, shot from the opposite side, the east side, in the morning sunlight. The object is the size and shape of a 767 fuselage, like the Chopper 5 image, and it appears highly reflective, like it's made of metal. But then, a very bright flame gobbles it up in less than 1 second, and it disappears. Clearly impossible behavior for any sort of metal airplane part. Later, it was discovered that there was no...
Okay, I'm not going to comment a lot on that. I want you to go watch Reality Analyst video that comes from. Again, the link is in the description box below. And I want you to be watching out for Unirock's explanation. I'm sure he's going to get into a lot of detail. I'll just say, and I hope you notice that in the actual part where they show the explosion, you can see the plane go into the building from the side, right? And the nose come out intact because the masking area moved during the helicopter wasn't stable. It wasn't in one spot, so they couldn't hold the mask in place. And they were in a hurry. They had to get this thing up. But when it came through, the explosion followed after the nose of the airplane came out the other side. We have a corrupt, deep state, New World Order, Luciferian control of our government that use 9/11 as the Pearl Harbor of the 21st century to justify taking control, building the military. The Project for a New American Century said that was written by Rumsfeld, Cheney, or at least they had input into it, to make America prominent again. Why? How? By killing Americans, just like they were going to do in Kennedy's time by taking out an airplane and blaming it on the Cubans and the Russians. And we could talk about more of the Gulf of Tonkin, etc. criminals in our government killed American citizens, killed human beings for their own power. Well, you say, that's happened all through history. Yeah, but why do we believe the lie? It's very upsetting to me. I know a little bit about videography. Obviously I've done some films. I've used green and blue screens. Masking I've done, but not quite to the extent that that's shown there. I have done it. It's obvious. So let's listen to Unirock when he gets his information out. Please be ready to go watch that. I think it's going to be extremely important. 9/11 was a false flag. It was murder, murder, murder to justify war. It wasn't just a false flag. It was mass murder to honor, again, 9/11. Interesting thing. I've done videos on what those numbers mean, how it relates to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and all that, and that's why I'm bringing this up today. The good side, the good people that worship goodness and the God of righteousness, etc., they do righteous things in Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Passover, etc. The bad side uses it to sacrifice men and women and children to their God, a blood sacrifice, passing them through the fire of Moloch. So you have the good and the bad using these same holidays, but for opposite reasons. So whether you believe it or not, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, doesn't matter. You got to understand who's using it and why. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna get into the chat here a little bit. Let's answer, and I'm not going to go much longer today. I wanted it to be more relaxed even than it is right now, but let's see what you got here. Yeah, new building's named One World Trade Center. Yeah, thanks, Truth Always. Yeah, Murder Incorporated. I noticed somebody said that. Yeah, I didn't watch the Alex debate with Eric Bolling. But yes, I do believe the government would do that to us. Obviously, I believe it because I've talked about it. I've said that the intel community is our most dangerous domestic enemy. They have killed more Americans. They have killed more people around the world and pretended like they were protecting us in the process when they weren't. They were primarily the perpetrators. And I saw it professionally and I saw it personally. Yeah, within 3 months of 9/11, Congress gives USA the TSA, DHS, Patriot Act, etc. Oh, they had the Patriot Act written up even before 9/11. I think most people know that now. Yeah, it was all part of it. Yeah, I like that. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. I'm not going to repeat that, but please, everybody, you can go look at that. And again, don't look if you're not into the spiritual things, just look at this as a battle plan for both sides. Just do it for that reason, if no other. Yeah. So why did the third plane go down in the field in Pennsylvania? It didn't. There's no proof that a plane was even there. I don't know if you've looked into that. I don't know if you understand it. There are a lot of problems with that as well. Okay, that crash site. When I saw it, I'm going, and I wasn't there, but the video that I did see, I'm saying this doesn't look like a plane crash site. All right. What about the Pentagon? Same thing. They never wanted to show us the video of the plane coming in, and then they finally came out with something. And it kind of looks like a missile, but there we go with the masking again. My own feeling about this is, now supposedly the transportation secretary was saying to Cheney, who was in the command center, this plane is so far out. Do you want us to act now? I guess it was also an officer, an Air Force officer, giving a report. The plane is this far out. Do you want us to do something? And Cheney kept saying no, and then finally, no, absolutely. How many times have I told you no? Well, the fact of the matter is that they took the system down, and who knows what this blip on the screen that was coming in, it may have been to justify that there was actually something there. My own personal opinion, I can't back this up with any proof other than what we've seen with the masking of the situation with World Trade Centers. And of course, World Trade Center 7 came down, and it wasn't even claimed to have been hit by a plane, right? That's the other smoking gun there. But at any rate, I'm beginning to think that maybe it was a planted explosives inside the Pentagon because they wanted to take out the Navy people who were investigating the loss of the Pentagon funds and some other things that they were looking into. So there we go. I think from everything I can see now, I suspect that was actually a planted explosive inside the Pentagon. And how could it get there? Well, geez, they control their own space. So they could do it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, what about the dead people that were on the planes? I don't know. They could have killed them beforehand. It's like that flight that came out missing that was flying from Malaysia to Beijing and just disappeared. I don't know. I don't know. But the evidence suggests that plane, for instance, landed in Diego Garcia. We have some evidence to suggest that. What they did with the passengers, who knows? In that situation, they were after actually some scientists who were going from Malaysia to Beijing to give China information on cloaking technology. If they'll kill 3,000 people on 9/11, they certainly won't have any objection to killing 300 people on an airplane. They just won't. I've watched Putin pretty close too. Darren Lovegrove says Putin is the only world leader not controlled by the Illuminati. No elite control of Russia since the revolution. Well, no, that's not quite true. If you mean since after they kicked the oligarchs out in the 90s, yeah, probably. They've been trying to right their ship for a long time too. And don't forget that it was the leftist Marxists, the New York bankers and lawyers, and the London guys that actually did that to Russia, the Bolshevik Revolution, funded Lenin, all that. So, here we go. We created our enemy, had the enemy to perpetuate the Cold War and all those other wars and all that. And now Russia's trying to say, no, we're your friend. And our leaders are saying, oh, no, we need that. See, the state's craft. The craft of the state is war. The justification for the state's existence is war. If they're not going to find the enemy on the outside of your country, they're going to bring, as philosophers have said, they're going to bring those weapons of war back to the people of their own nation and war upon them. That's what they do. And we keep letting them get away with it. That's why this thing in Syria bothers me. Why Trump, I don't know if they went around back behind him this time to do this attack in Syria. I don't know. They may have done it without telling him because that's how desperate they are. Or he may have gone along with it. But his line in the sand was chemicals, which is stupid too, actually, when you think about it, because they've all been false flags done by the rebels. But regardless, I'm not sure what happened this time in Syria. They may have pulled this off without telling Trump. I mean, that's the kind of mutiny that could be happening in our government right now, because they are autonomous to some extent. Yeah, the commander-in-chief and all that, but he kind of gave them carte blanche on fighting ISIS and Al-Qaeda, right? Well, then it gets bent into this thing where we're fighting Syria that's actually trying to fight Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Isn't that ridiculous? So I don't know if Trump knows what's happened here. Okay, Iran is the next war, and of course that's to get to the underbelly of Russia. That's really the purpose of getting Iran and Afghanistan. I don't know when or if Trump will ever just tell us the truth about that. He said he wouldn't lie to us, but he doesn't have to tell us the truth either. He doesn't have to tell us everything, and he said he wouldn't tell us everything that he's going to do. However, he's got to finally come out at some point that the MSM is controlled by the intelligence community and that they are the same thing, as are the social platforms, social network platforms like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc. But he's also going to have to get to the point, right, where he tells us about what's really happening on the international scene, like this deal with Syria. We have all the resources we need here in the United States. He's a businessman. He knows how to make deals. We need to stop he ran on stopping regime change wars, stopping these unjust wars that we were led into by false information from the very intelligence community. He now takes information for supposedly on these wars to get involved. So I want him to return back that. But as I said, this is dangerous. He's declassifying this information, which the IC, that's sacrosanct to them. They're gods. They're the steady state. They'll kill him just for this, if they get a chance. They will. And of course, in Congress and these other places, they're going to put up as many stops as they can, as many things that they can use to slow down his agenda until they can catch him on something or whatever, manufacture another crime, whatever they're going to do. It's definitely a coup. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, this coup is against you and me. Trump's just the figurehead. Vereen Kirst, I got to mention yours. Trump is only playing his supporters. I'm not saying he isn't, because he's a showman. I'm not saying he isn't. The question is to what end and purpose. And if you've watched me for any length of time, I vacillate between those. But I have to believe that he's trying to do the right thing. Not saying he always does, but that he's trying to, because the forces of evil that are arrayed against him and against us would not be there otherwise. So I have to think that he's trying to do the right thing. Okay, I do. Yeah, I like this, Jason Harmon. They will never get to Trump, Roy. Trump has good backing, sort of speaking. I hope you're right. He has a lot of people on his side, but these people are ruthless. They are devious. They have, and they work as a group. Remember, I've told you before, and this has come out even more lately, that the children of darkness are wiser than the children of light. That's a scriptural term, but what it's saying is that, the good people, they don't sit around and try to, come up with a way to screw their neighbor every day, right? They just want to live their life, have their cookout, go to the beach, be with their family. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they want to make a living and they want to make a difference, but they're not. It's not in their DNA to plot evil. Do you know what? They might do things wrong once in a while, but to plot real evil. This other side, that's all they do. They spend all of their time, and that's what the scripture means. The children of darkness are wiser. In other words, they spend all of their time, trying to plan how to do evil, how to take over, how to force themselves on you. So I hope Trump has the right support. I hope we have the right support. I hope God sees that we're trying to do the right thing and doesn't let us go down into this drain that's going to destroy us all, because mankind has proven himself unworthy of the next level. Men and women are a good thing. That's a good thing. We need to get back to that. Children are a product of that, not the purpose of that. Children are not the purpose of that union. Children are the fruit of that union, not the purpose. But that's why I say Christians have ruined the man-woman relationship by their interpretation of Scripture and of what Jesus said 2,000 years ago. They misinterpreted the entire thing. They misunderstood the idea of law, and they denigrated particularly the female. And it's wrong. Look where it's gotten us. Yeah, Bobby Cabito, if the House and Senate flip, Trump will be impeached. No doubt. And they don't care what for. It could be for no reason at all. Because they don't follow law. They don't follow their own law or their own regulations. They should everyone, I wish we could put them all on trial. I wish we could. There might be a handful of them that don't deserve it. So what do we do in the end if this thing falls apart? Pray, stay out of the way. They're going to come for us. We want to go for them. I want to get them and try them in courts. I do. But courts of real justice, where evidence is presented, that type of thing. They're not going to give that to us. Merely supporting Trump or supporting the Constitutional Republic is going to be a reason for them to act against us. Look at Bundy Ranch. Bundy Ranch is what you're looking for in the future. What happened at Bundy Ranch is what you're looking at in the future if we don't stop this, and it's going to be wholesale. And there will be people that will go along with it in the military and law enforcement community because that's who they are. They have tried to change this for the last 20 to 30 years. Like I said, it's always been a problem, but it's really, really bad now. I'm sorry, Joe Clinton, your mother passed away from ALS. I'm so sorry. I had a grandfather who did as well. Q said, trust Sessions, Roy. Nope, Jimmy Schultz. Nope. And I told you, if you're going to come here and say those types of things, I just assume you not come. Sessions, look, I'm from Missouri, okay? I don't believe it until I see it. I'm not gonna bank on Sessions being a good guy with all I've seen. Going after marijuana, right? Oh yeah. Civil asset forfeiture. Oh, yeah, that's real constitutional. Just on those two things alone, I know he's not a good guy. I don't even have to talk about all these supposed indictments and all, which has already been poo-pooed. We already know what the indictments are. They don't exist, not 50,000 of them. That's just not the way it works. I've already covered that, though. I'm not going to go into it. No, Q is nothing. Q is a LARP. Q is a dangerous infiltration into the Trump movement, and it's taken a toll on it, and it's going to get worse. That's all I'm going to say. Oh, Jimmy Schultz, Roy, it's a question. It's all your opinion. Relax. Oh, okay. That's my opinion, okay? That's how I feel about it. I didn't mean to attack you and say, you don't need to come here. That's the difficulty with, of course, reading the chat. It looked like you were making a statement. And I can even respect the statement, but this has just been going on too long. So, yeah, that is my opinion. But it's an educated, professional opinion, okay? I went along with this thing for the first 3 or 4 weeks, and I gave it an extra little bit of time until the DEFCON 1 debacle of January 7th. And then I knew that it had nothing to do with anybody of any real knowledge of our government. I just knew it. And it's proven that to be the case since then, despite all of the supposed confirmations and prophecies and predictions and all that. All that can be done with the internet keys. And we've already talked about how that is. We already told you that Hillary has control of those digital internet keys. She's had them since the Rose Law Firm in the 90s, maybe earlier. She was a patent attorney. The patent office has been totally compromised. It's corrupt, and Hillary has controlled that. And that's how they control the internet and the information. That's how she's in control of the FBI because of that. Why do you think that they're not going after her? Because she really controls them. She is. One person said, "Well, she's the woman on the beast in the Book of Revelations." Well, in a way that symbolism works for me. It does. But at any rate, the point is that we've got some real problems with this internet and how it's being used against us. And people like Hillary being able to get in there and manipulate it. And I don't mean she personally gets in there and does it. No, of course not. But it's her group. And it's Obama's, the OFA, the Obama Foundation, and the Organizing for Action, that whole counter government that sits down the street from the White House where Obama and Valerie Jarrett are. He's not there most of the time, but that's where the shadow government is run from, and they do believe that Obama's their president. They absolutely do. This is the war in heaven redivivus. It really is. Praise Keck. Yeah. Yeah, circle the wagons. I don't get excited about anything anymore. I know. You're like me, Missouri. Wait and see. Watch what happens. 5G is being installed. Right. Tinfoil hat, you're absolutely right. Exactly. September 18th was last day for public discussions, like they'd listen to us anyway. They want the panopticon in. Technology can be a good thing, but more often than not, it's used as a weapon against us. And they only give it to us when they figure that they have full control of it. Well, yeah, 5G and the panopticon, the nanotech, the surveillance, yeah. And Trump he did stop the Chinese from controlling our 5G networks. At least he thinks he did. I think he did. But I don't trust our side either. So regardless, it's not a good thing. I wish it could be. Okay. Let's see. We've been going for an hour now, and I really didn't want to go longer than that today. I did want to get to a little bit of the chat. What do you most? Oh, here's a Skull Brother, Roy Potter. What do you admire most about Trump? His courage. I'm not saying he knows the truth, even. But he has courage, and you can be courageous for evil as well. But I'll say that I think, from what I've seen, he's courageous to stand up against the cabal the way he is. Have they not taken him out because he's actually one of theirs? I would hope that's not it. There have been attempts on his life that have not even been made public. I don't know if you're aware of that. And, of course, on his family and his supporters. The entire thing is a three-ring circus at this point. And it's actually more rings than that. But all of it is to keep our attention off of what really are the issues, what is really happening. So Trump, he came into the White House a loner. He didn't have anybody that would go with him there really that knew how Washington worked. He was on a learning curve. I'm very upset that he keeps bringing in deep staters and neocons and Trotskyites into his administration. I thought he was going to get rid of them. And I've heard all the excuses, well, he needs somebody to help him run the government. There were others available. Whether or not they would have been confirmed, for instance, by the Senate, or whether I forget the guy's name. Cernovich talks about him all the time. The guy that controls the civil service positions and the clearances and all of that, who has really put a stop to Trump getting a lot of people in. There are ways around that, but he in that regard he hasn't been courageous. Okay, he hasn't been, in my estimation, because it would mean that he has to go outside the status quo system in order for it to work. And I've often talked about Article 2, Section 2, that's available to him. But that is a statement of war against the deep state. Not that this D-class isn't, because it definitely is. But that would be even more so. That would be like sending the Marines, to the door of the FBI and the DOJ and the State Department and the et cetera, et cetera. So I don't know if he'll be able to gather the strength around him to go to the next step or not. That's why I say we just have to keep we have to keep our conscience and our consciousness on these issues, and ask for the spirit of discernment, as I ask God to give him all the time, that we will have the spirit of discernment so we'll know the right from the wrong and have the courage to do it. We have to be able to do that too. When I pray that for him, that's for us as well. It's the same thing. No, I don't trust any man 100%. We're all fallible. That's why I say it's principle, not personality. I like personality, but when they get off principle, I got to call them on it or disassociate myself. Right? So at this point, I'm trusting that Trump is actually trying to do the right thing the best he can. I think he has courage. So that's what I'd say. Oh, Bobby Cabito, the only vote that will make a difference is the one with your rifle. Well, the Second Amendment's there to back up all the others and our rights and our lives and everything else. But believe me, we don't want to go there. And the old statement is, of course, that if voting worked, they wouldn't let us do it. I understand what you're saying, but just don't go there. Just don't go there. What about Kavanaugh? I-Law 61. I don't trust Kavanaugh. His background with supporting the Bushes and giving them the help that he did on all the things that transpired, a lot of the stuff that Kavanaugh's done. He's an SES member. He's a member of the Senior Executive Service, as is his wife, which is interesting that the Senate would be giving, Congress and all these people would be giving him so much trouble because he's actually one of them. But it could be show. All I know is I don't trust him. I don't trust Kavanaugh. But this entire MeToo thing that's being used to take him down, that's ridiculous. That's nefarious. That's to influence the American people and to divide men and women even more. That's really what that is. And to slow Trump down if they can. But Kavanaugh is 9/11. Well, there are some concerns there. I'll agree. Okay. Bobby Cabito, why not use the Second Amendment? I don't want civil war either, but it looks more likely to be in our future, and it's well. Let me put it this way: you don't want to get what you wish for in that regard. You need to do everything you can to avoid that. Certainly, don't push it. Certainly, don't push it. Lisa Chavez, real name. I refuse to stay in my lane, Dick. I don't know who you're talking to, Lisa. It's nice to see you there. She's been with me for a long time. I'm glad to see her there. Okay. Like I say, it's been almost an hour and 10 minutes. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Remember, Project Veritas and James O'Keefe is going to be revealing the members of the deep state and showing the who's who. We want to keep track of that. Watch for these declassifications when they come out. They're going to try to slow walk that. They're going to try to stall as long as they can. And like Matt Brackett and I have said, Trump just needs to storm them with the U.S. Marshal Service. I agree. Also, apparently, I failed to mention that apparently Treasury, its investigations division, is doing some of the work that they're saying Sessions is doing. Apparently, Mnuchin is involved in going after some of these people. Okay, I don't want to get into the executive orders and all that because we've been going for too long today already for what I planned. But I think the Department of the Treasury has been active. Okay, so that's a good sign. And then, of course, we'll want to keep track of what's happening with Kavanaugh. And hope that I hope we can repair this whole thing between men and women. But boy, they're sure working hard on it to destroy it. Okay, well, keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. God bless you. God bless yours. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America and the Second American Revolution. And may God bless Donald Trump and all of his righteous endeavors. That the Spirit of the Lord may descend upon him and give him the spirit of discernment, that he may know the difference between the right and the wrong, and have the courage to do the right thing. Out here until next time, ladies and gentlemen, a lot more we could cover. Don't forget to go look at the information in the description box and watch for Uni's presentation on 9/11. That's Unirock, okay? Out here for now. Thanks, everybody. Take care.